Great. Thank you.
Good. Good. Okay. Just our agenda, our recap here. Where Inject 1 left us, it's May 1st, 12:45 in the afternoon, and it's a Friday. So we had five participant groups, and they had five very different realities, whether they're large corporation or critical infrastructure, medium-sized corporations, then we have small and medium enterprises, communities and local governments, and then individuals and households. And so just as a note, we have 12 teams participating and sending their submissions, but we have over 85 organizations and individuals participating and following along in this event. So here, the judging criteria looked at the decision-making process, continuity of operations, coordination, and resilience and recovery. So what the teams did. So after Inject 1, we had 11 teams respond. One was unable to respond because they were unable to because of FIFA. 5 sectors represented, 2-hour decision window, and it's a national impact. So the scenario everybody responded to was a grid collapse, suspected cyber attack, degrading communications, and fog and rumor and misinformation as we head into Friday at midday and people are starting to head home. So how the teams responded. So as I said, 11 teams responded. The number one cascading risk that was named was fuel and generator runtime. Life safety was a high priority. And 3 out of 12 teams mentioned that it was a cyber attack. So nearly every team pivoted to PACE fallbacks, satellite phones, radios, runners, in-person EOC coordination, and most teams held on backup power and deferred alternate site activation against threats, prioritizing resource preservation over an immediate failover. Almost every team ranked the same 3 top priorities: protecting life and safety, establishing command and control, and sustain critical functions. The threats teams flagged the most: communications failure, fuel and backup power, staff safety and availability, cyber escalation, misinformation and trust, and loss of critical services. What got decided and who decided it? So I'll just give everyone a minute. I won't read through it all. So the key decisions that were made and the decision and authority structure.
I don't know if it's on.
What had to keep running and with what? So critical functions protected, emergency services, water, wastewater treatment, financial aspect, internal, external communications, data centers, employee safety and accountability. And then here's some of the resources that were identified that were leaned on. So communications, internal, external, and misinformation were identified, and here's some of the key highlights. Where digital failed, radio and analog channels kept internal coordination alive, and the teams that planned for it stayed connected. So looking ahead, we have generator fuel depletion across sites, telecom collapse, a loss of physical security with cameras and access control. Vulnerable populations will be at risk, staff fatigue and thinning coverage, cyber compromise spreading to more systems. And then some of the decision triggers. So what worked well? Here are some of the strengths across the teams. Teams anchored choices in life safety and impact maximize downtime thresholds rather than rushing into recovery. Communication resilience. One single source of truth. Most teams routed their messaging through a comms or crisis team approval gate and excluded social media. And then resource preservation. Non-essential load was shed early to stretch generator runtime. And here's some strengths that teams saw in themselves: fast activation, cross-functional reflex, their plans paid off, real world experience, analog as a fallback, and life safety and communications first. Common gaps where some of the plans fell short. Cyber was underweighted, only a few teams identified it. Untested failover and fuel, communication dependencies, heavy reliance on cellular, email, and internet, and undefined triggers. Here, where teams want to get stronger, the communications fragility, fuel resupply, activation triggers, messaging readiness, staffing and fatigue, and situational awareness. So 5 takeaways to carry forward. Communication resilience equals operational resilience. Discipline beats data in the fog. Defining clear activation triggers. Plan to stand alone. And treat the grid and cyber as enterprise-wide. So some standout thinking in this round. Team G had a structured 7-step misinformation framework anchored in a single source of truth. Team I reframed the event as enterprise-wide and drew on some lessons learned from Puerto Rico. Team L leaned on their lived experience with a blackout. Team C had sharp conflicting priority analysis, production versus DR failover. Various teams, especially those that were using the city of Clearwater, had consequence-based posture that refused to wait on attributions. And team A and B, there's a highlight as well. So before we move on to our scoring, I want to reach out and give everybody a chance. Is what did you learn from Inject 1? Feel free to just turn your microphone off and jump in.
I think the fact that we rely a lot on digital was very apparent. And the fact that most teams were not prepared for it.
Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yes, hello, I'm Frederick. I don't know if you can hear me well.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, the thing that was interesting from my point of view is that although we're talking about Canada, I'm in Switzerland, and we lived things in Portugal and Spain last year, the basics are the same. So it's very interesting for me to see uh, how we go through such exercise because all all the let's say the foundations of the crisis and the way we treat it would be similar in other countries. You may have tiny details for authorities or specifics, but for me, more than 80% are common to any blackout scenario, and that's quite interesting for me as well.
Thank you. Anybody else want to share? Okay, not hearing any, we'll move on to the scoring. So this is just from Inject 1. So Team F, the Resilience Rangers, came out first. Team ATCO second, and Team WCB was third, with Team A very close behind. So these are still pending review. I have one more set of judging coming in, but we will post the winners, but I'm pretty sure this is how it lands. And then if we look at our first scenario, launch and then Inject 1, Team Toba is in the lead, Team CIOB is in second place, and then we have a tie between the Resilience Rangers and Team WCB in third. So getting into Inject 2, it's 2:45 in the afternoon. Our next inject will be 24 hours from now, so it will be Saturday afternoon. The outage is confirmed to be cyber related with no restoration timeline, and telecoms keep failing as backup power runs down, and your team's next 24 hours, or sorry, 2 hours start now. It's 2 hours, not 24. The national outage is confirmed as cyber related. We're roughly 4 hours into the event, and the picture is sharpened and worsened. Authorities have now confirmed the national outage is cyber related, and there's no timeline available. Telecommunications continue to deteriorate as the provider backup power depletes, and mobile internet services are failing in a widening set of regions. Security teams, both yours and your partners, are detecting anomalous traffic directed at backup and recovery environments. Vendor advisories are now warning that failover and alternate operating environments may themselves be compromised. This turns a straightforward continuity move, failover to your backup, into a risky decision. Failover quickly may restore operations, or it may spread the compromise into one environment you are holding in reserve. At the same time, the resource pressure your team's forecast in Inject 1 is arriving. Generator runtime and fuel reserves at primary and backup sites are now approaching thresholds many of you identified as your key cascading risk, and fuel resupplies cannot be confirmed. The core tension of this phase is the trade-off between rapid failover and cyber containment under deteriorating power, degrading communications, and information you cannot fully verify. So in this one, we have obviously a cyber event, IT disruptions, HR issues, financial conditions, and reputational risk. From the professional practice aspect, it's professional practices 2, 5, 9, and 10, but not limited to those. And so here's kind of as the sector impact, as the crisis deepens, here's the impacts on the various sectors. I'll just give everybody a quick moment to read those. So some discussion questions. The failover decision to activate your backup alternate site manual processes now or defer. Who holds the authority to decide? Containment versus restoration. How would you weigh leadership's pressure for system access against the risk of spreading a compromise into your recovery environment? Power and fuel. With generator runtime and fuel approaching critical thresholds, what do you shed, prioritize, or escalate? And does this change your failover timing? Even with vendor advisories uncertain, how do you decide what staff, customers, and the public are told, and to avoid amplifying unverified information? So this also, before you respond, is revisit your Inject 1 assumptions. Which of these assumptions you recorded in Inject 1 still hold true now that it is confirmed as cyber? If you assume no concurrent cyber attack or the backup power failover would activate cleanly, how does that change your posture? So the clock starts now. Does anyone have any questions? Or Garth, do you want to jump in before you have to hop off?
Yeah, no. I have to say, I'm actually floored at how good the responses were. It's been a privilege being a judge because I think I've learned as much from reading the responses, as I ever have from any course that I've taken. So kudos to everybody on the call who's been part of this. You've done an excellent job, and don't take the scoring too personally. Look at this as an opportunity to build some muscle memory and improve your skill set. If you're not, on the leaderboard at, 3 or lower or higher, sorry, don't take it personally. The judging is being done by people with a lot of experience. I'm probably the most junior one on the team. So be proud of yourselves.
Thanks, Garth. Anybody want to jump in at all?
Question, are we going to get our direct feedback emailed? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you will get your direct feedback by the end of today.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And the slides and the recording, as well as the 2-pager debrief, will all be posted to the website by the end of today as well. So just give people a couple minutes if they want to pop a question into the chat or jump on with any questions. not seeing any, feel free to send me an email if you have any questions, or I can provide any additional information. Feel free to reach out, and I hope everybody enjoys their weekend. And thanks for joining today and doing a quick flip over to Zoom.
Take care. All the best, everybody.
Thank you.